Hi everyone, it's Melissa Woods. In this video, I'm going to show you how I transformed this secondhand furniture find that I got for 10 bucks on Facebook Marketplace into something very modern for my new living room makeover. This coffee table is solid oak. I believe it's made out of red oak, and I wanted to completely transform it by both stripping and painting. So this is a great furniture tutorial for anybody who's just beginning either refinishing furniture and they want to learn how to strip and restain, or even learning how to successfully paint furniture so that it lasts. Now you can see that I'm applying the clean stripper with a brush, and then I'm putting down some saran wrap, plastic wrap. This is going to keep the stripper active longer and make it more effective. This is a fast acting product, so within 15 minutes I can start scraping. Every stripper is different, so you just want to make sure you read the instructions on the back of the product. And again, it's really stinky, so try to do this in a well ventilated area and use a mask. I'm using a 5-in-1 tool to scrape and being very careful because you don't want to gouge the wood. It's even better if you have a plastic scraper to pull up the residual goop from the stripper. The first layer of stripper that you apply really is just knocking off the sealant and eating through some of the stain. So when you scrape it up, your wood should feel rough, like ready to sand. Sometimes I choose to do 2 layers of stripper because stripper never really pulls out as much stain as I want it to. This is just to knock off that top layer for sure. So I typically get the majority of the stain out of the wood by sanding. And there's other methods too. For instance, you can learn about bleaching wood, which is an effective way to get stain out of wood, in my other video about when I stripped that maple hutch I did in the fall. The next step to stripping furniture is to use a sander. And the best sander to use is a random orbital because it moves in random patterns so that you're never going to see sanding marks on your piece of furniture. It's still best to try to move with the grain of the wood, but you can see on my coffee table the top has inlaid pieces of wood that run in a different direction of the grain than the rectangle that trims them out. So that was kind of impossible for me. So I ended up using my random orbital sander in circular motions, and I did hours and hours of sanding in order to get the wood back to a uniform raw lumber appearance. I think I sanded a total of 4 hours going through multiple grits. So I started with an 80 grit, and this is going to knock off the majority of the stain. Then you come in with a 120, and then I did a 240. And so that my coffee table was incredibly smooth, I also did a 320. Now, believe it or not, it's not best to just sand with a low grit. It's actually best to follow the subsequent grit numbers going upwards, and that allows you to sand off the majority of what you can do as efficiently as possible. At this point, I had a little repair on the coffee table because one side had an inlay piece that was kind of loose, and then the trim piece out on the side that was breaking apart. So I added some wood glue in there, kind of forced it down by moving those pieces of wood apart from each other. And then I clamped it in place with my bar clamp for like a few hours. Then I sanded over that as well just to get that wood glue all off the surface before treating it with any product. When the wood glue was still wet, I also filled it with some sawdust. The fine sawdust that was in my random orbital sander is a perfect match because it came from the wood itself. Now, my first attempt to stain this coffee table actually failed. I started with a pre-stained wood conditioner, and this is just insurance that your stain job turns out even. It's especially important if you're using a softwood. Since I'm doing oak, it maybe wasn't necessary, but I just threw this down like I usually do when I stain furniture, just to be sure. I used pickled oak Minwax stain, and this is supposed to kind of add like a little bit of a whitewash to the wood. But the thing that failed was that for some reason or another, this stain bubbled up like so and did not absorb into the oak whatsoever. And I don't know why this happened, but this is oftentimes caused by using 2 different base products. So if you're using like a water-based product and then you try and put an oil-based product over it, or an oil-based product underneath, and then you try and put a water-based stain on top. They don't mix and they'll bubble and pull apart. Nothing like that happened here, so I really have no idea why my stain didn't absorb and this didn't work out. But needless to say, I had to resand the whole thing to get it back to the raw lumber again, which obviously I was not very happy about. I didn't want to run to the store for more products, so what I decided to do was a bit unorthodox. I used my multi-surface craft paint, which this is a high quality paint, to create my own whitewash. And you'll see here I'm adding some green into it, and then filling it with water and mixing that up well before applying it to the red oak coffee table. The green is to counteract the red undertones and bring this coffee table back to a neutral base, because after sanding, I still could not get rid of the red. And this is very common for red oak, that it's really hard to get it to look neutral. But after 2 coats of my custom whitewash, I thought it looked awesome, and even more so once it dried. So I was happy. I decided to finish it, and I'm sealing it with this wax in natural. Wax is applied with a dry rag, and you usually apply it in a circular motion, just kind of like rubbing it on. And I love the luster that it gives. It's kind of a matte finish. And then once you apply the wax, you just buff it out after 10 to 15 minutes of it drying. The bottom of this piece of furniture I'll be painting, and I'm using my favorite paint, the urethane alkyd enamel paint in black from Behr. I like this paint because the black really does not fade with time or sunlight, and it is so durable with excellent adhesion. You don't need a primer. A lot of times when you're painting furniture, I would recommend a primer, even if it's a paint and primer in one, just because furniture can get really banged up. But on this particular coffee table, I was not worried about it because these legs are so far underneath the table's top that I don't think they're going to get a lot of wear and tear. So after 2 coats of paint, that was it. Super, super easy. I think the painted legs kind of look like metal. I really like that look. The newly refinished top and the black painted legs make this coffee table super modern. And I love with my custom whitewash that I got red oak to match my pine mantle on our new fireplace. I hope this video was helpful for you if you are considering refinishing furniture in some way or another. And if you have more questions, you can pop them in the comments below, or come follow me on Instagram because I'm very active there, sharing all my tips and tricks in my stories. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this furniture makeover on Welcome to the Woods.